Thank you everyone for joining us for the April 2023 BrainX Community Live session. We have two excellent speakers to talk about pragmatic approaches of AI applications in radiology. But before we get to that, we'll start off with a brief introduction about BrainX community for those who are joining us for the first time. We started it 4+ years ago with the idea of machine learning applications in healthcare for good and how we can share scientific information and create a collaborative platform. It has grown to be 4,000+ member international strong community with a very diverse background of members. We have a very active LinkedIn group where we actively share a lot of scientific material and has more than 2,300 members now. And of course, we have a resource website, the brainxai.org or brainxcommunity.com. And the reason why you're here is because we do these monthly live sessions, bringing in experts from around the world to talk about machine learning in healthcare applications, their research work, and some of the applications that they're building and bringing to the real world. This is our main webpage where you'll find a whole host of resource links. You can find the updates on our homepage itself. We have our Connect segment there where you will find updates about upcoming BrainX community live sessions like this one, or links to our prior sessions to our YouTube channel. And as I mentioned, we have our own YouTube channel where we record and host these meetings. So if you miss it, don't worry about it. You can still catch it on our YouTube channel. So please subscribe to that. Very active LinkedIn group where we share information. And then we have a lot of resources for learning. This one is the Learn section, where you can find a list of curated articles, journals, books, courses, anything that'll help you with your learning process. You can filter it by different healthcare specialties to go to the healthcare specialty of your choice. And of course, everybody's looking for data. So we provide you links to open source data sets. And this is probably the biggest repository of links to open source data sets for your AI and healthcare needs. And once again, you can filter it by your healthcare specialty of choice and find the data that you might need to get your Google Colab or Jupyter Notebook running. We also have a podcast series where we feature some of the eminent people who have done their research or development work. These are renowned people from across the world. So listen in, subscribe to it, and on your favorite podcast channel. And you can listen to their journey. You can learn from their experiences and also hear about their vision for the future. And of course, hopefully the COVID pandemic is gone, and it's a great opportunity for us to get together, interact, learn from each other. So we have the meeting section where you can find the upcoming meetings posted. You can directly click on those and get more information so that we can connect at one of these future meetings. With that, I have two amazing speakers today. Dr. Vachon, who's the co-founder, CEO of Oatmeal Health. He's a practicing radiologist. He's written numerous books, given us the opportunity to participate in our prior sessions, and has been working on some amazing pragmatic solutions for AI in healthcare. And we have Professor Shuo Li. He is the professor at the Case Western Reserve University. Again, amazing background. You can read about it, very well published. He has been leading phenomenal work in this space. We'll be inviting him to speak too. But before that, I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Vachon to give his presentation. So Tai, over to you.
Just getting my screen up here. Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Payush, for the intro, and I'm happy to be here again to chat with the BrainX community. What I'd like to talk about today is ways that we're using AI in lung cancer screening workflow. And before I dive into that, I want to talk about something that investors call SISP, a SISP. And many startups fall into this trap as a solution in search of a problem. And what I want to explain today is how we took the entirely different approach. We spent months and months and months talking to clinics to find out what the problem was, and then built a solution around that. And as such, we found a way to put AI in 3 different parts of the lung cancer screening process. And despite the fact that I'm a radiologist, it only involves imaging on one of them. And I think that's exactly the way that we need to be leaning forward in this kind of AI space. It's not going to be just imaging. It's not going to be just lab. It's not going to be just X, Y, or Z. It's going to be collaboration and reaching out to all of our clinical colleagues. So I'm going to do a bit of walking through the problem and then what we're doing to work on it. So lung cancer screening has been around for 10 years, and it's been reimbursable by CMS and insurance companies for 10 years, and yet still less than 5% of Americans are screened. And so that's where we started. We started with the giant problem of how do we get 14.5 million Americans screened? We've learned that, it's not really as standardized as breast and colorectal and cervical. Clinics just don't have the staff to do one more thing. And we don't do a really great job systematizing, engaging patients. Like we don't have a way to tell them there's a new kind of screening protocol out there from a healthcare system standpoint, that is. And then right before the end of last year, so right around Thanksgiving, the NCQA said that lung cancer screening is going to be the 4th screening metric. It's going to join colorectal, breast, and cervical as a mandatory screening for the clinics. Now, that's obviously great for us. We're trying to figure out a way to improve lung cancer screening, but that's very anxiety-provoking to the million doctors in America who have one more thing they're going to have to report to. So just as a review, maybe you don't know this, but a review for the people who do, to get screened for lung cancer, you have to meet these criteria: 50 to 77, smoke for 20 years, a pack a day, and that's called a 20-pack year history. And you have to have smoked in the last 15 years. So you would think like, okay, there's the criteria, and you just get someone, identify them and get them screened and have them come back every year. What's the problem? Where's the issue here? And that is what we dove into, and we learned firsthand where the issue is. So we work with a few pilot clinics to try and figure out where the struggle is. And so you would think that you just go to the EHR and you just go and search for tobacco history, and you just figure out who's a 20-pack year history, make a list, and screen them. Like that. That's like what I thought, at least, what you do. So when you go to EHRs, some of them don't even have tobacco use data. Okay, well, that's a problem. And then the ones that do, me and my million doctor friends have never filled this in for the last 25 years. And so when you're trying to figure out what the denominator is, what the list of people to screen is, it's coming up as blank, or pretty close to blank. So what do you do? So if a clinic has like 100,000 patients, you can call them all, I suppose. I mean, that's one way you can do it. You can call every single patient and say, do you smoke? When did you start? When did you stop? How many packs per day? Not very scalable. But we thought another way, and this is where we think AI can be applied, and that's what we're going to be working on. So if we could come across data that was filled in, so if you look at the screen, I just changed it. So now we have a tobacco start date of the 80s and the end dates in the 2000s, and put a pack a day in there, and that can calculate 20-pack year history. So if that data is available, then this is great, and it is, and we found a place to get this data. And then over on the left-hand side of the screen here, the EHR data is what we really want to get. We want to get their vitals, their labs, their medicines, their imaging, their comorbidities, their allergies, their clinical notes, because what we hypothesize, and what's a pretty reasonable data science problem to solve, is if we have all of this data, then we can predict the smoking history based on the other EHR data. So this is, I mean, it's not easy, but that is what we propose to do, and that's what our main goal for our startup is right now. So not to get into like a crazy like data science lecture, but what this is representing here is the gold standard data. This is where we have the start date, the end date, number of packs per day, and we've calculated out to be 20-pack years. So each of these red circles is 20. So this is representing, thousands of data points that has that data and the associated EHR data. And then if we specifically come across data that has holes in start date, end date, pack year, this is exactly what you need. You need a training, testing, validating set to predict who's a 20-pack year history. Now, of course, there's going to be some false positives, false negatives. Our sensitivity specificity is not going to be great, and that's okay. We would test this with some forgiving clinics that will let us to figure this out until we get it tuned up the way we want to get it going. So now when we get back to my original circle, now we can at least start. Now we can at least do step one of like, what's the list that you start with to get them into the scanner? So number one, applying AI just to figure out who you're supposed to screen. So now finally the picture thing for the radiology guy. There are many AI algorithms that you can apply to the images of CT scans to give a malignancy prediction score. So we see a nodule, it's the size of a grape. It's got really shaggy margins. It looks really scary. Radiologist and AI would probably give that a high score, saying that we think that it's cancerous. We propose on our side that we don't have to have the radiologist do that. We can bring that over to the clinic side. So if the clinic has access to the images, we can do all this on the clinic side and not have to rely on the radiologist part. And there's some logistics that go along with that. And I'll give maybe just a little bit here. Like when I turn on my radiology computer, I don't have access to the 150 FDA cleared algorithms. It's not cost beneficial for me to have access to all of them. But if we work with a clinic to just get the nodule algorithms, maybe the cost benefit does work. And that's what we're going to be testing out in the next 6 to 8 months. So we want to have a virtual nodule clinic based on the clinic to look at the imaging. So that presents some problems. Like if the AI gives a one score and the radiologist gives another score, we need to reconcile that. And that's one of the things that the company will do, that, and I will facilitate. Just as a very brief review, since this is a short talk, radiologists give nodules a 1, 2, 3, or 4. And that's kind of in order, lowest worrisome for cancer to highest worrisome for cancer. And so on this one, green, good, 1, red, bad. And so typically when an AI algorithm looks at the nodule, it'll give it some sort of percent based on its training that says it's 85% likely to be malignant or 15% malignant. And so that's something that we would reconcile. So specifically, I would take the report, I would take the AI, I'd look at it with my eyeballs and say, yeah, I think this is this and this and this, and I would collaborate with the ordering doctor to make sure that we do the right thing for that patient. So that is 2 things. So AI to figure out who's supposed to even get screened, and then the things that's kind of nifty for me as a radiologist, using AI to give a prediction to the nodule. So step 4, lower left corner, like how do we get people to come back year after year? It's taken 40 years and Susan G. Komen and Pink October to get ladies to do mammograms as efficiently as we have. And quite frankly, it's still not perfect. Like we have a ways to go. And so it's not easy to develop habits. It's not easy to put people into a situation where they have to do something year after year. And on the radiology side, we can't do screening once. You can't do 1 mammogram. You can't do 1 CT scan for a nodule. You must come back year after year because I need to see if the thing changed. Like there's no other way around that. And so what we need to do is think of a way to teach patients. We need to figure out a way to impart this knowledge. And this is not the first time in the history of medicine that we've had to figure out a way to teach patients. And so this is the third part is how do we get the right content to the right person at the right time to make sure that they understand the message that we're trying to bring. And so there's quite a bit of literature in the last 10 years about nudging and nudge behavior and how do you guide someone to make one decision or another. Being transparent, honest, not tricking, but to make sure that we do the best thing for the patient. And so what we want to do is have a whole library of videos that have different training modules that are super short, very to the point, and we want to test. Does do I respond to a male or female person? Do I respond to someone my age or older? Do I respond to someone of my skin color or different? My accent or different? We don't know. And historically in medicine, we've thought very paternalistically. The man doctor says this to the patient and we see what happens. And we've seen that that's not great. And so now we want to figure out another way. Well, what if we have, someone that looks like the patient and talks like the patient and sounds like the patient? Let's see if that works. And that's just a hypothesis. And so we just want to test it. So if we have this library of videos and we present it to our patients and we see what the outcomes are, and we can kind of learn as we go. And so this is the third part that we want to apply some machine learning. It would be far too difficult for one person with an Excel spreadsheet to say, okay, this person did this and this person did this and did it. But if we collect all that data smartly, then we can determine what avenues work to decrease the knowledge gap to get the best outcome from the patient. So just these are the last two slides, and then we'll pass it over to Professor Li. There are 43 ribbons for cancers. And we typically, have like the Susan G. Komen pink breast, October month. But when there are more ribbons than months, we start to get kind of lost in the sauce. Like, we need to systematize this quite a bit better. And that's one of the things that we want to do as a company, is once we get lung cancer taken care of, we think we'll be very well poised to help with all the other chronic disease and cancer screening, because, another ribbon is not the answer. And there's going to be more things we need to screen for. And you definitely can't zoom in on your screen right now, but I'm going to zoom in now to December. And on this particular infographic, it says, December is Cancer Fatigue Awareness Month. Now, I'm not making awareness for cancer, but when there's so many ribbons, like, I'm confused, our patients are confused, when we need to have a system. And that's ultimately what we're going to be working on at Oatmeal, Jonathan and I. So I'm a little bit ahead of schedule, but I think that's good, because then we can get Professor Li on and then get some questions. Or Payush, do you have any questions you want me to address first?
No, I think we'll leave the questions or comments for the end, but it's fascinating to me, because of the population health approach, the screening approach, and something that most of people would think like would be very easy, would be very intuitive, but sometimes it's not easy in healthcare to apply these. So you would think you could develop an application that will easily capture this data, but it's fascinating and amazing, the work that you're doing to solve this problem that might appear simple, but does have a complexity built in it. But then, as a perfect segue to Professor Li's talk about the machine learning models that come in later on, to solve these problems. But I think Professor Li is also going to talk about something very interesting, which impacts a large patient population. And again, it has a significant impact to large populations and their risk there. So Professor Li, we'll turn it over to you. Thank you so much. And we'll take questions and comments at the end.
Thank you, Dr. Matthew, for your invitation. I'm really glad to be here to present this. And as you said, this is one of our recent work addressed quite a high impact healthcare problem. That's the chemical contrast agent. As an AI researcher, a lot of time I got questions to go, wonder where AI will happen. What is AI? What is the true AI? There are so many arguments on AI. And where are we now? So today I'm going to give you one example, some what we think the AI could be doing for the healthcare, besides many other excellent colleagues are doing, and from imaging perspective. And hopefully you will get a certain answer from the example I'm going to give to you. We all know that the machine learning has made great progress recently, and this is one of the example here. Now I show you 6 photos, right? Human face. Now, if I tell you one of them is a synthetic, meaning that this person does not exist, the photo is not real from real photo, real person, what would you think? Which one you think? Okay, so look at each of the photos carefully. Look at the smiling, look at the skin, look at their hair, look at their expression, and I can tell you the answer directly. All of them are synthetic. None of them is from real person, meaning that this person never exists, this background never exists, this expression never exists. But these photos are not being photoshopped. These photos are pixel by pixel generated. And therefore, that's actually a very popular image, synthetic image research in AI area, very popular, very hot. So this is natural objects. And as you can see, if I don't tell you, you won't be able to figure out. You perhaps won't be able to figure out they are actually synthetic. They are never real. The secret of this recent synthetic image AI is because of the tool called the generative adversarial network. We call it the GAN. We all know that machine learning or deep learning work great, but in this case, that GAN use two competing network. One is called a generator, another one is called discriminator. So generator responsible for generate image from the random noise, and then discriminator compare this generated image with the real database full of faces, and then judge whether it's faked or real. The dual link between these two networks generate real, more and more realistic images. Now, it's not a very long journey. Actually, as you can see, it's only a few years from 2014 to 2018. And then, as you can see, that the resolution gets better and better, and we get more and more details. And you can see in the 2016, the flower was not that great. You can see there's a little artifacts here and there. 2017, there are still some errors, mistakes, and it's getting better and better. That's the power of recent machine learning. So now when we think about this overall idea, the dual link between a competition between these two neural networks is able to generate a result, then now can we use that for radiology, medical images, for example? Now we are able to generate the synthetic face. Can we generate synthetic medical images? Yes, the answer is yes, right? So if that's true, then we no longer need a department of radiology, right? We no longer need that all many equipments. So every patient come in, we press the button, and then we will be able to generate an image without those heavy MRI, CT machines. The reality is no, it's not true. It can't do it. We are able to generate those images look very real, look very realistic. We are also able to generate a medical image look very realistic. But we are not able to generate an image that truly reflects what's inside of the patients, right? That's why we need imaging. We need to see through the surface and find out what's inside. And what's the point to generate an image look real to the patient? But maybe, slightly change the idea in some of the area, right? Now, the main difference is if we generate a synthetic image, medical image, it's not personalized enough. It just looks real, but it's not personalized to this patient. Now, what if we can find those personal information from some other channels? And this is one example, contrast-enhanced imaging. Contrast-enhanced imaging, just for those who may not be familiar with it, is inject the chemical contrast agent into the human body. And then when the contrast agent goes through the lesion area, it would highlight that area on the imaging. Here, I show you a few comparisons between the non-contrast image and the contrast image. As you can see, those lesion area can be clearly identified from the contrast image. And it used in many applications, but very intensively used on cancer imaging. Now, we slightly modify this GAN structure. So we no longer generate the image from the random noise. We generated the image from the non-contrast image. And we use the contrast image as the database, a real database to compare to benchmark to. And then the discriminator and generator, the competing between these two, were able to generate an AI contrast enhanced MRI image. We use MRI image here as an example. In fact, we will show you that it's more than MRI, but we started with MRI, and for a very well-known reason, MRI has more textures. It has more sequences and allow us to get a more personalized information from the patients without using contrast agent. And this is not a trivial, it's a high impact because The contrast agent itself is very safe, but still, usually if the patient has a chronic renal disease, and they are not supposed to take it, and if they have allergy or pregnant, all this kind of medical conditions, they were not able to take it. And another issue is the cost. So every year, it was estimated that there's a $1.2 billion used for the USA only to buy those contrast agents, and which does not come cheap. And also the time, because the current clinical protocol is that the patient come in and then they take a non-contrast MRI and then take the contrast MRI, the post-contrast imaging. And that's even though the post-contrast imaging usually is faster, but it still costs extra time, which can be used for next patient. And then people say time is money, but time can be more valuable than money. And also, if in some situation the facility may not have a physician or radiologist supervision, and then the injection of those contrast agent may not be possible. And here I show you an example that where the contrast agent is not just for MRI, it's actually almost for every single modality. Now, whether this idea is durable, let's do a feasibility study. So we choose LGE, lead gadolinium enhancement, as for cardiac MRI. Once again, because this is a case where we use MRI and very commonly used in cardiac imaging. And so we want to prove that using LGE, which is the gadolinium enhanced image, that is we are able to achieve equivalent results. Our AI contrast agent image, we call it AI LGE, is able to have equivalent results, meaning that whatever you need from LGE, we can get it from AI LGE. Now, I know you guys are doctor, you already know those, just in the case that some audience do not know. And here are some terms. So we have a SYNC-MRI, which is more like a motion dynamic cardiac MRI images. The LGE MRI, as you can see, the red area, that's the myocardium scar. That's the area that the cardiac muscle has dead. Now, 2017, we proposed the first work that we are able to detect the myocardium infection area without using any contrast agent. So here I show you those segmented results. These segmentation are not getting from the contrast enhanced, not getting from LGE image, but get from non-LGE, the SYNC-MRI image. And a year later, 2018, we actually further developed it. We are not only able to segment those areas, but also able to output all those different parameters, like parameter, like the axis, length, all those clinically relevant parameter, because this is AI work, and every parameter will be automatic. I don't want to go to too much detail for today's talk, but I listed the paper here for you guys to, if you're interested, for you guys to read through. Now, we also, for this piece of work, we actually did quite some methodology innovation. We're not just using the fundamental GAN and get the results. As you can see here, we integrate the segmentation network and a quantification network into the GAN structure. To the best of our knowledge at that time, was the first one did that. And of course, we do some mathematical innovation here as well in order to achieve the state-of-the-art results. And that's the feasibility for cardiac. And then we choose another different types of applications, which is the liver cancer, liver tumor. So 2019, we tried it whether we are able to achieve the equivalent results on the liver contrast, liver MRI, and using liver cancer as an example. Here we show you that on the top part, that our segmentation result is able to segment the right contour for, because some tumor is invisible on the non-contrast image. Some tumors are visible on the non-contrast image. For those invisible tumor or barely visible tumor, as you can see from the bottom row, we are able to segment the tumor area. And for those not the boundary visible but not a clear boundary, we are able to segment the contour of the boundary that equivalent to those boundary we got from the contrast image. This is the network structure we use. We use the radiomics guidance because we know that radiomics contain a lot of tumor information, and then we use radiomics information to guide our feature extraction. Some details about how we use the radiomics. Now, when we get this done, 2017, I think 2019, Radiology Journal published an editorial, so deep learning for detection of myocardial scar tissue, goodbye to gadolinium. A lot of our research in the methodology side, we have been trying very hard to attract interest from the clinician area. But this is a piece of work that only 2 years after the first paper published, already get strong attention from the clinical world, which we are very proud of. Now, so we further extended, we tried the feasibility study, and then we know that this is feasible. So we actually launched a multiple AI contrast enhanced image project. The project is we try to create an AI contrast agent or AI contrast image that has equivalent diagnostic value as the chemical contrast enhanced image. And this is very significant from multiple perspectives. A, we avoid the risk. We understand the current chemical contrast agent is very safe, but it can be safer than not having it, right? And we know that some are, disease patient or those a pregnant woman, they will not be able to have it, and now they are able to get the equivalent diagnostics from their non-contrast images. And also the cost of saving is very significant. We are not claiming we are able to replace all of them because there's a $1.2 billion contrast agent market for MI in the United States. But think about CT, think about ultrasound, think about other things. And the overall market is really big if we can replace 10% or 20%. And it's a huge save to our already a burdened healthcare system. Now, so we want to develop using, so this is one example. We want to use the state-of-art machine learning technique to enable an AI application in the clinical world, which make the current imaging safer, quicker, and cost saving. I'm going to show you a few examples, AI on cardiac and AI on liver, as well as on the pathology image. So previously, I showed you the one that able to detect the myocardial infarction. But detect the myocardial infarction is not good enough for the clinical world. Many groups are studying that already. They also have good results to the detection. We are no longer the only group can do it. But we are even though we were the first group doing it, but we are the only group can do the synthetic image. Synthetic image that looks similar, virtual, like some people call it virtual AI contrast agent. So this is the results that we published in the last few years. As you can see, the first row is the sync MI image, the dynamic MI image, and the middle row are our preliminary AI LGE image. And the last row are the real chemical contrast enhanced image. We know they're not identical. We know that we have more noise. But if we look at it, they almost have this equivalent diagnostic value. And here we did some machine learning innovation as well. Once again, I'm going to skip this. If you're interested, go to the paper. And we tried on the liver as well. On the liver, we did a synthetic AI contrast image on liver. And we get a very good results as well. Very promising results, let's put it that way. Here is a closed loop element. See, on the left side is a synthetic one. On the right side, a real chemical contrast agent. And you can see that the results looks really promising, even though we are still slightly blurred. And again, we innovate the machine learning tools here in order to enable this application. And we further develop this because this is AI solutions, and we actually combine multiple sequences. And we know that the MI has multiple sequences, T1, T2, DWI. We combine all the T1, T2, DWI, where we find that we are able to achieve more accurate segmentation of the tumor on the non-contrast image. And here are the machine learning innovations. So just in the case, in case you're interested. And this is a quantitative evaluation of the multi-sequence we use for this segmentation and quantification. So we find that use T1, T2, and DWI together give the best results, even though the T1, T2 also works to a certain degree. And we also extended more than just radiology. We extend that to the pathology as well. So if you think about the AI contrast agent, and in the pathology area, and this is we call it AI sting. And this work is the second published work in the field, and there's one work did a similar work because we were busy on other things. But this work we actually generated synthetic image for multiple multiple themes. For example, we generated the CC10, Ki67, and all different functional stings from the regular sting image. Because in those applications, we do not have the non-stinged image, right? So this poses a very unique challenge here. In MI or CT or other liver or cardiac, that we know that each pixel is supposed to have a corresponding pixel on the non-contrast and between the contrast and non-contrast image. But in the pathology image, this is not true because we are not able to get a unstinged tissue section, sting the one, and then wash it out, and sting another one, sting another one. So all we get are the H and E and the other functional stings. So in this case, we generate all the functional stinged image from the H and E. And we know that this no longer has a pixel-to-pixel correspondence, but is a style and the content. So if you think about the sting in this case, it's really just using color to color certain tissues, right? So that using machine learning world, that's the style. So we use a style gun to develop a machine learning system to do that. And here are the more detail I'm going to skip, but this is the final machine learning network structure if you're interested. And here are the results. So we compared our AI sting and ground truth. Now note that here we do not have a real ground truth. We do not have the real ground truth, but visually they look. You can see that because the ground truths are the slices getting from the next nearby slices, so look really similar. But we also compared to other diagnostic parameters, and we find that they get equivalent diagnostic results. So we being a machine learning researcher, being an AI researcher in healthcare, as I said, we get a lot of questions like, oh, you talk about those fancy machine learning tools all the time. Now, can these fancy machine learning tools really help our clinical scenario? Can it really give us any help? Now, among many AI system we develop, this is one example that actually we do think, we strongly believe, as we hopefully already proved, that AI is able to make the imaging safer, quicker, more affordable, and automated. because in this particular case, for example, we no longer need injected chemical contrast agent. Then for some of the enhancement, actually, they use even use radiation there. And for the CT, we save the radiations there as well. And because we no longer need injection of chemical contrast agent, we save the time, right? And we also save the time for scanning and reduce the cost, of course. Also automatic. Automatic is not very, is almost to all AI system. But if we develop this AI contrast agent, automatic will be automatic side effect, side product. And this is also a great example that to show that we are able to translate the research from computer science to biomedical engineering to clinical world. So we're working with a physician to have multi-center study, which is a more like a translational, hopefully to translate to the bedside. And we are also working with industry. We already filed a patent, and we want to further develop it and commercialize it. And also, this started with one segmentation project and become a theme research in my group. And it also become a new theme of research in this area and the clinical world. So we're quite proud that this is a very high impact translational research. We also work with other BMB researchers because they say, you know what, because now you no longer need to inject those chemical contrast agent into human, right? Now we can use more briefly the chemicals, okay? And we only need to, when we deliver that to patients, we only need to generate the AI ones. Only on the limited samples, we can use more briefly, make the image much more clearer, and we think it could become a very high impact research later, because we are able to enable a lot more chemical contrast agent and not really being developed, well developed in the lab, but no longer need to deliver to the patient bed. We also work with other computer science researchers. Myself is part of the computer science department as well, because there are a lot of machine learning problems that are coming from the real world. I show you the machine learning tools that are able to generate synthetic faces. The synthetic face is very interesting, but really not so useful, because when you need a passport, are you going to generate that passport photo from the computer? No, you still have to go to the studio to do that. But for us, it's more challenging because we actually use it for diagnosis, right? And also, of course, there are many other machine learning side of the challenges. For example, cardiac AI contrast agent, the thing MI is a dynamic one. And contrast, the LGE is actually a static point, right? Static image. And for the liver, it's other way around, because the post-contrast image are the dynamic. We call it wash out. And for pathology, it's different. Assuming we have one starting point, and then it has multiple matching function, and each of these slides has a certain correlation, but not exactly. So this poses a lot of fundamental machine learning challenges and interesting research topic for us to work with our machine learning colleagues. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Li. That was just fascinating to me. Both Tai, your work, and Shuo, your work, it just is amazing. So congratulations. And I see how you have worked on end-to-end solution. So it's not just something that just ends with a research paper, but you're actually looking to impact real world. And that's why I call them like the pragmatic application, which are way more important to me, way more valuable than something that just ends with a great publication. So congratulations on your amazing work. Tai, what do you think? Like no more contrast agents, and with all your screening, I think it might help, right? What do you think as a radiologist?
Right. I mean, truly, like in 30 years, we're gonna look back and say it was barbaric that we were jamming stuff in people's veins just so the dumb human could figure out what the picture looked like. The amount of tech that goes into making an MRI or CT image is phenomenal, and we have to make it so simple that the dumb human can figure it out. So it's just a matter of time before we figure out a way to extract way more data from those images and not use contrast. So we have a little bit of a ways before we can completely trust the data extraction without contrast, because right now we have to see the rim enhancement for the abscess, or we need to see the enhancement for the tumor. But sure, if there's an ICU patient with a GFR of 10, yeah, we want to avoid that if we can. And so there's no way we're going to not do this. I just don't know when it's going to happen, like clinically.
Yeah. Had a thought about the cancer screen. You talk a little bit about the nudge theory. So how much of this is about, or AI solution in the implementation, do you think is about the hardcore fundamental machine learning research versus the implementation aspect of that? What do you think in terms of our journey, where we are in some of the lessons learned over there? Because I see a lot of research work going on, but then the translation output, a lot of people argue, is limited. So when you look at screening and you think about the nudge factor, the implementation science of it, and that's I think one of the cutting edge things that you and I congratulate Oatmeal Health for focusing on. What do you think is the key ingredient over there at that?
So something specific that you want to change clinically. And so this is kind of what I said at the very beginning: a solution in search of a problem, or a problem that needs a solution. And so right now we know there's 15 million Americans that aren't getting screened. And so if we can figure out a way to get that number less and less and less and less, then it's working. And so we're specifically trying to get people screened for lung cancer. And so the evidence will determine itself. And so that is how we will see. And there are 150, 170 FDA cleared algorithms right now, and there's a pretty broad range of who is making money and who is not. And so I think you can probably interpret what I mean by that. Like, there has to be like a real clinical use, and otherwise it just gets put on the shelf.
Yeah, because I see like there might be clinical use. You might have a pretty cool algorithm, but it might be lacking in application too. I think I love the end-to-end approach that you are taking, and similar to Dr. Lee's over here. I do see a question in the chat from Burke Osman. He's one of our postdoc researchers over here too, and his question is, what are your thoughts on synthetic MRI data?
From what perspective? I like synthetic MRI data, and then there are a lot of data there already. Now, synthetic MRI data, one of my colleague, I think, is working on the synthetic data, and they already have the synthetic data used in the PET MRI, PET CT or something. I forgot where, but they actually use that for the, I believe GE or somewhere, they have synthetic MRI data being used in the products already. So that shows that a certain feasibility there. In general, synthetic MRI is challenging because MRI does, almost in all the imaging modality, MRI does have the most textures. But using MRI to predict CT, using MRI to do other things, usually works much better.
What are some of the caveats to that? What would be some of the challenges or downfall to using synthetic data? Yeah.
Well,
what are some of the lessons that you learned through that?
One of the biggest challenge here is how do we prove that is actually will not invent a ghost, right? So yes, you can prove that on 10,000 people, you never invent any ghost in 10,000 people. But theoretically, we lack of a tool, we lack of theory says that you will never have a ghost there. And so that's the biggest challenge we have now.
Actually, amongst the things that you listed, which are the value proposition for not putting contrast, I actually listed a couple of those from my own experience. One is, to inject contrast, you need an IV first. And
right.
a lot of these patients, it's very difficult to get IV in sometimes. So just from pure patient experience and being somebody in charge of quality, taking care of these patients every single day, if you can get rid of that, like not need IV, that itself is a big win for patients. And many times it's also that you need a particular size IV because of the injection rates and other thing. It becomes very challenging for some of our very, very sick patients in the ICU that I take care of. And many times, once you inject the contrast, they need dialysis right after. And many times you have not planned for that. So now you need to get them dialyzed and all, which put them at risk either ways too. So there are so many numerous problems just beyond what you had enumerated that build a case for your solution. I'm very excited about that. One of the questions I had was that you had reflected upon creating this virtual image or the synthetic image. Now, is that for comparative evaluation, or why couldn't you just, instead of creating that synthetic image, get the key information out of it? So does that help with the comparison, and the radiologist read that similar to what the image would be with contrast, or how did you approach that?
It's actually a very confusing time. We're a little bit confused on what we can do to provide to the clinical world. So because now, when we talk to physician, everyone says, if we can get rid of contrast agent, that's great, right? So now, but if we think about it, if we want to provide to the clinical world, we need to fit into the radiologist or any physician's the current workflow. The current workflow, you do need an image to look at it and make your decision, right? That's why we cannot just provide you a quantitative key information there. We have to generate using different network of a synthetic image. And this synthetic image at the same time serve as a cross-validation for the quantitative measurement you do. In fact, we actually developed a tool that is able to cross-validate each other and provide a certainty analysis. Right? And if this is like a two parallel system, right? This two parallel system, if they come out to agree each other, great, high and like much more certain. If they don't agree with each other, okay, you should be careful. This may not be the case that we are very confident. So these are the one. This is at this stage we are developing multiple approaches to try to address different concerns. One of the concerns, as I said, is whether you are reliability. Now, if we have multiple ways to reach the final results and the cross-validation between each other, hopefully give us more reliable results as well.
Oh, thank you. Well, if anybody has any questions or comments, please post them in the chat. Ty, I see you wanting to ask something.
So, like from a rollout standpoint, let's say that they're able to determine clot burden on a PE super accurately. Then when you're in the ICU and you have a super sick person, like, yes, we can avoid the IV in that person because we know that we can tell you there's not a significant clot burden and there's no right heart strain. So like a very specific use case, I think would be helpful to be teaching like our intensivists, like, okay, for someone who's a high risk, you can do this test because the juice is worth the squeeze, but you can't do that looking for a brain infection because we don't have that ready yet. And so, so this might be a slight dovetail from what he was saying, but so if I'm looking at it and I have the real PE one and I have the synthetic one, and I'm like, okay, this one is insignificant clot burden, don't worry about it. I'm like, this one's so we have to just kind of figure that out. And ideally, we find some awesome clinical ways to avoid the IV. Like, yes, let's figure out ways to do it. Like, what's the thing that's most confident first.
All right, I'm going to ask you a political question. What do you guys think about the freeze on AI research till foundation models catch up, and we need to do that? What your thoughts, if you want to? So, Ty, what do you think of that? Can you stop a runaway train?
So I think just working on the guardrails is probably more helpful than, because who's really stopping? The people that we probably want to stop aren't stopping. And so I think just making better guardrails right now is probably more helpful, because the only people who aren't stopping are the ones who are probably gonna do okay. So yeah, I'm not sure where it's gonna go, but I think we should always be thinking about bias. Like we should always be putting guardrails around bias and being able to say something's drifting further than we want and we want to fix it.
Well, I worry about bias and hallucinations too, right, Professor Li? What do you think about that?
I was amazed by that comment. I can tell you, no one is going to stop, and it's in fact everyone is going to go faster. and everyone, as you can see, that so many research group has been working on this, right? So the general fundamental of machine learning is going to get a big investment, and we're going to see a lot of new cool research along that direction.
But do you think that it distracts the researchers or the funding into some of the important thing that others are doing, just like yourself? Like, does that present the risk of distracting us from some of the important work that others are doing?
Anything new would create a distraction, and maybe they are the new things that will lead to a new way and the right way, right? We don't know. Even if it doesn't, it'll provide additional way, right? So that we know the funding is limited, but at least we know that they provide a possible approach. Then that's the approach we definitely should explore, should not stop at all.
Well, I want to thank both of you for fascinating presentations, and more than that, amazing work that you are leading to help our patient population and the clinician community. So congratulations on that. But all good things have to come to an end, and we could continue this fascinating conversation more, but I think we'll end it now. For future, please join us. Please stay tuned. Join one of our LinkedIn groups or through the website. Follow us on various channels, including podcasts and YouTube, or just email me, and we'll be happy to do that. So until next time, wish you all the best with your research work, collaboration, and development. We'll see you in